This book is free to read on QQ. Get one system per day at the beginning. What? The opening task is for me to go find Tang Hao and make an axe. System brother, are you sure this is not a joke? First martial soul. Acacia heartbroken red. Second martial soul. Shaking axe. How should the heartbreaking red martial soul of Acacia attach a soul ring? How powerful is the sky shaking axe? He group. 971292851 Keywords of the novel. Douluo. Let Tang Hao create an axe without a pop-up window at the beginning. Douluo. Let Tang Hao create an axe at the beginning. Download the complete set of TXT. Douluo. Let Tang Hao create an axe at the beginning. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Carpenter Shop in Holy Soul Village, for collection, for recommended tickets. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Carpenter Shop in Holy Soul Village, for collection, for recommended tickets. Douluo continent, at the junction of the Star Luo Empire and the Heavenly Do Empire, is a Holy Soul village in every corner. There is a large and simple wooden house on the west side of Holy Soul Village. Although this house is very simple, it is the most luxurious in the village for Holy Soul Village. The villagers call this house the Luxury Little Bai. This luxurious villa is the size of 5 rooms, and in the middle of the roof hangs a wooden plaque of about 2 meters, carved with a lifelike axe. The symbol of the axe in the world of Douluo continent is the carpenter, and carpentry can be said to be a very popular profession in Douluo continent. Because most of the houses, tables, chairs, and other objects in Douluo continent are made of wood, the carpenter profession is a high-paying and advanced profession, and it is not an exaggeration to say that this profession is second only to soul masters. And there is such a carpenter shop in Holy Soul Village, which can be said to have driven the economic conditions of the entire Holy Soul Village. Villagers from several nearby villages have come here to customize various sizes of wooden objects, and even to build houses, they have to ask this carpenter master to come. Therefore, the owner of this house is Holy Soul Village, and even the wealthiest people in several nearby villages. In this carpenter's shop, there is a middle-aged man who is full of spirit. This middle-aged man looks like he is in his 40s and may have some stubble on his face. His figure is particularly sturdy and robust. And he was dressed particularly handsome, wearing a white short-sleeved shirt on his upper body and a brown pants with exposed holes on his lower body. His temperament gave people a very natural feeling. At first glance, he looked like the owner of this shop. He lay leisurely on a wooden rocking chair and said, "Oh my goodness. How many orders did we take today? Uncle Wu, the orders we received today are very special. All the orders are sticks." The neighboring village Tsuehua ordered 10 rolling pins that are 25 centimeters long and 4 centimeters thick. Aunt Shufan from the village ordered 2 garlic pestles that are 30 centimeters long and 5 centimeters thick. Uncle Tang Ritien from the blacksmith shop next door sent his younger brother to come and order 10 hammer handles that are 40 centimeters long and 3 centimeters thick. The person named Xiao Tian replied happily. This little Day's voice is particularly obedient and childish, sounding like a very sensible child. At the entrance of this carpenter's shop, there is a table and a chair, as well as a little boy about 6 or 7 years old. This little boy is particularly delicate, dressed neatly, and in his right hand, he is holding a pen to write something in a notebook. The appearance of this little boy now is really too obedient, completely like that of someone else's child, but those who truly understand him know that his true appearance is not like that. Carpenter Wu shook his head helplessly and whispered softly, "What kind of fun is Tang Hao joining in with the two of them? He just uses a hammer, not like how they repeatedly use it. Anyway, let's just do it together without any trouble." Wu Shuk stood up and stretched lazily, saying, "Oh my goodness. I've told you so many times. Uncle Tang Hao is called Tang Hao, not Tang Ritien, but you are called Xiao Tian, isn't it?" Pooh, "Pooh, it's not that, you stinky old man gave me a bad name." "What's not a good name? Call me Wu Tian." Wu Tian rolled his eyes and said with a disdainful expression. Wu Jian pointed at Wu Tian's little nose in a fit of anger and said, "You little brat is still clinging to me. If it weren't for me picking it up for you from the stinky ditch, you would have stinked to death when you were 1 year old." Wu Tian pursed his lips and thought to himself, "This stinky old man brought me back to talk about things. I've heard it more than 100 times in recent years, and he always says he picked me up in the stinky ditch. Why don't you say I picked it up from the trash can? Fortunately, I came through time travel. If it weren't for time travel, he would have really deceived me. I was clearly found by him by the river." He vividly remembers that it was a dark and windy night, lying in a very stable position in a wooden basin, shaking in the clear river. Suddenly, Wu Shake's big face appeared in front of him, and then Wu Shake shouted out, "No reason." So his name was Wu Tian. A few days ago, Wu Tian asked Wu Shan about the origin of his name, and Wu Shan clearly told him that it was the first day his wife ran with her child and a soul master. Wu Tian had no choice but to comfort him, at least the child was his, and the soul master was just a receiver. Then Wu Jian's face turned bitter as he told him that the child was actually the soul master's, otherwise his wife wouldn't be able to run with the child. Then Wu Tian understood the origin of his name very clearly. It turned out that after learning that he had helped others raise children for several years, Wu Shan wanted to go to the river to relieve his mood. However, he saw Wu Tian and then began to help others raise children. For him, this was really unreasonable. Perhaps the small river in his mind was just a stinky ditch, so he told Wu Tian that he had found it in the ditch. Wu Shan shouted angrily, "You're not willing to call me Wu Tian anymore. I regret giving you that name. Look, you're completely lawless now. You tell me honestly, you went to kiss that little girl in the village again yesterday." Wu Tian cried out with tears in his eyes, feeling very aggrieved, "It's unfair. I didn't kiss that little girl in the village forcefully. Is it really not there?" Wu Jian asked skeptically. Wu Tian replied firmly, "I swear to heaven, there's really nothing." That's good." Wu Shan nodded and answered with satisfaction. Wu Tian thought proudly, "I really didn't force a kiss on the little girl in the village. I forced a kiss on the little girl from the neighboring village." Wu Jian said earnestly, "Oh my goodness. Look at you, you're already big and big. Shouldn't you help me with?" Wu Tian quickly interrupted him and said, "My third brother and I have made an appointment to go out and play together. I'll leave first." After speaking, he ran out like a gust of wind. Wu Chuan put his gloves on his work clothes and sighed helplessly, "Xiao Tian, when can you help me with my work?" Wu Tian ran out of his home and rushed towards the blacksmith shop across the street. He reached out and knocked on the door, pulling his neck and shouting, "Junior brother, are you at home?" After a moment, the door of the blacksmith's shop opened, and there stood a middle-aged man with a scruffy beard, hair like a bird's nest, and a tired and lazy body. The middle-aged man had a particularly strong alcohol smell on his body, and when Wu Tian smelled the smell from him, he felt like he was about to get drunk. This person is none other than Douluo, the youngest titled Douluo on the Douluo continent. Douluo every day, Tang Hao. Seeking collection, seeking recommended tickets. Newcomers and new books seeking support. Requesting tickets. Seeking comments, seeking days rush to the new book list. Thank you, everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Growing Up and Achieving Prosperity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Growing Up and Achieving Prosperity. Oh. It's my goodness. Come in quickly. Tang Hao lazily said as he opened the door. Wu Tian quickly waved his hand and said, "No, no, I'm here to find my third brother to climb the mountain. Isn't he at home?" Tang Hao shook his head listlessly and said, "I'm not at home, maybe he went first." This is Wu Tian. If it were someone else, Tang Hao would have turned his head and gone to sleep long ago. How could he be here to talk with him? It's morning now, and for him, it's time to sleep. After all, his current routine cannot be changed by anyone. He sleeps in the morning, works in the afternoon, and drinks at night. This routine is very emotional, especially like Wu Tian's life routine before crossing the river. He sleeps in the morning without thinking of it, and is extremely busy in the afternoon. He goes there at night. The reason why Tang Hao treated Wu Tian particularly was because Wu Tian's wooden sticks were not worth much money. Although those wooden sticks were not worth much, over time, they could at least save a few large pots of wine money in a year. And his house was built with Wu Zhen's help, and his family often took care of their business, so the business of his blacksmith shop became very good, at least he and his junior didn't have to eat porridge. Wu Tian smiled obediently and said, "Hee, since the third brother is not at home, let's forget it." After Wu Tian left, Tang Hao quickly closed the door again. "Come out." "He has already left." Tang Hao's voice said to someone. At this moment, a boy of 5 or 6 years old walked out of the room. He was dressed very plainly, with short black hair that made him very energetic. His skin was wheat-colored, which seemed to be the reason for frequent exercise. But it was such a healthy little boy, with a look of fear in his little eyes. Dad, has brother Wu Tian really left?" This person is Tang Xiaosan, the son of Tang Hao. As for why he wants to hide, it certainly starts from the last time Wu Tian went out to play with him. As the top second-generation wealthy man in the village, Wu Tian would tremble with every stomp of his feet. Even the village chief, Old Jack, had no way of dealing with him. Who could have let this little brat drive the entire village's economy? The most important thing is that Wu Tian has a lot of devilish ideas. Last time, he proposed an idea to Old Jack, which was to build a soul holy house at the handprint left by the soul holy, and then create a statue inside. By promoting and touching it, good martial souls can be awakened, which will attract many people to come and pay their respects and take action. To put it more simply, there will be many people coming to give money. So although Wu Tian is a bit mischievous, the people in the village are all thanking him. Of course Wu Tian knew their thoughts. They just wanted to use a beauty to trick him into becoming a golden turtle son. Law, right? I'll do whatever I can, okay. So he must go out for a walk every day, and of course, he just does it with his hands and never touches his mouth, because these rouge powders don't match his thick big lips. Because of Wu Tian's special position in the village, as long as Wu Tian greets him, all the little brats in the village will be gathered by him, including Tang San. Tang San didn't want to go last time, but his father, Tang Hao, had to let him come. He said he didn't eat porridge every day for them, so he came. After Tang San arrived, he felt very bored because he was a pure person. He didn't want to play with these little brats. Especially when they played with Nu while creating humans, they created lifelike clay figurines. Of course, it was the girls who made the clay figurines, and of course, Wu Tian, who had some special status, also joined the women's camp. In order to make the clay figurines more realistic, he personally measured the proportions. So those little girls laughed very pleasantly, and their clothes were all covered in mud fingerprints left by Wu Tian. And of course, the task of making male clay figurines is left to the male children, and the template is of course their own. Actually, Tang San resisted very hard, but couldn't resist the crowds. Especially Wu Tianxia's hand is really ruthless, as he calls it. Grow up and have success. So he has been avoiding Wu Tian ever since. And this time Wu Tian came to find him because his family's hammer handle was gone, so Tang Hao forced him to order it. So Wu Tian invited him to go hiking together, and in order to avoid contact with Wu Tian, he quickly agreed. "Xiao San, why are you so afraid of Xiao Tian?" Tang Hao asked listlessly. Tang San certainly wouldn't tell his father, so he made up a very reasonable reason. He cried profusely and entrusted Chu Baba with a runny nose and tears as he said, because brother Wu Tian, he. What's wrong with him? Tang Hao asked anxiously. Tang San cried and said, he likes me. Woo, puff, Tang Hao sprayed all the wine in his mouth onto Tang San's face. Tang Hao's eyes widened as if he had discovered the new world. Do you think Xiao Tian likes you? Yes, Dad. Tang San nodded and said. Tang Hao took another sip of his wine and said earnestly, Third, you know we both rely on his family to survive, so I'll do you a favor. If Xiao Tian gets into trouble with you, don't resist. Why don't you go to the tailor's shop to buy a set of women's clothing? Tang San. Is it my biological father? After leaving the Tang family, Wu Tian returned to his own home. He saw Wu Shan standing there in a daze at the door, without any intention of working. Ha, stinky old man, haven't you become Wu Shugan again? Wu Tian leaned against the door and sneered. Wu Shan saw Wu Tian curiously and asked, Little rabbit, when did you come back? Didn't you go hiking with the mistress? Alas, the mistress can't go for diarrhea. Wu Tian sighed. That's really great, come on, help me with the work. Wu Shuk was pleasantly surprised and said, Can I say I'm not available? Wu Tian said helplessly. Wu shook his head and said, No. But I don't know. It's okay, I'll teach you. Come on, take your time. The first time you're stupid. Under Wu Jian's guidance, Wu Tian vigorously lifted a sharp axe with both hands. Yes, that's right, that's it. Apply force. Apply force. Apply force. Newcomer's new book, Seeking Collection, Seeking Recommended Tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 3 Tang Hao. I want you to accompany me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Tang Hao, I want you to accompany me. Wu Tian struggled to lift the axe, his whole body trembling because his small body couldn't bear it. Compared to Tang San, who is also a trader, he is really nothing. Tang San has possessed Xiantian Gong since his appearance, and can cultivate his small physique as soon as he crosses over. His small physical fitness far exceeds that of his peers. But Wu Tian became cooler. He thought that crossing the Douluo continent would also become a trader, but he really thought too much. He has been trying to awaken the system in recent years. He even dug out Tang San's egg, but he has achieved nothing. This system is like an unpopular female friend, no matter how hard he tries, this female friend has not responded. So he gave up and prepared to wait for Xiao Taodao's arrival in this small village, to see if he could awaken a powerful martial soul. If he awakened a powerful martial soul, he would also strive to become a soul master, at least mixing up a Shrek 8 monsters. If he awakens a useless martial soul, he is prepared to become a self-proclaimed title carpenter in this holy soul village. His idea was certainly inspired by the nearby blacksmith shop. I didn't see that although the blacksmith shop didn't look very impressive, their owner was a blacksmith named Douluo. And the old man in his family is just an ordinary carpenter. He also fantasized about Wu Shan being a hidden title Douluo, but he found that he was obviously overthinking it. Wu Shan's craftsmanship is too skilled, and he looks like an old master. How could he possibly be a title Douluo? And now Wu Tianguang is struggling to lift this huge axe, let alone chop it down. Wu Shan corrected Wu Tian's posture beside him and said, Xiao Tian, you're amazing. You lifted this axe all at once, raise it higher, higher, yes, that's it. Xiao Tian, you need to stand firm with your legs, use your calves to exert force, and then upload it to your thighs so that you can stand firm. Then use your waist to exert force, allowing this force to pass from your waist to your arms and wrists, and finally quickly chop down. Wu Tian suddenly exerted his strength and swung the huge axe with force, just as Wu Shuk said. This force suddenly erupted from his body, and Wu Tian could clearly feel that his strength was much greater than before, just like now when he lifted this axe, he didn't feel any waste. This made him ecstatic. Is he also born with divine power? The huge axe swung towards the wood in front of him with a force that struck the sky. At this awkward moment, the axe flew out from above the handle. This situation is really sudden, and the direction where the axe flew out happened to be where Wu Sheik was standing. With a whoosh sound, the axe flew over Wu Shan's ear and flew out of his wooden house. Wu Shuk blinked his eyes and reached out to touch his head. He said in horror, "I'm still in bed." And due to the axe flying out, Wu Tian threw himself towards the ground. Puff. Oh, it hurts me so much. Wu Tian quickly stood up on the ground and gently rubbed his waist. He complained, "What a broken axe. Why can't you withstand my torment?" Wu Shan saw Wu Tian fall to the ground and was still daydreaming. He approached Wu Tian with concern and asked, "Xiao Tian, are you okay? Have you been injured?" Wu Tian waved his hand and said, "Stinky old man, I have nothing to do, but I have something special to ask you." Wu Shuk patted his chest and said, "Who you're okay, just ask." Wu Tian asked seriously, "So I'm asking, is it because your stick was too thin or because Tang Hao's hammer hole was too big that caused the situation where the axe just flew out?" Wu Shan was speechless. Because of such an accident, Wu Shan dares to let Wu Tian work again. Wu Tian is just a young master's fate. Let him continue with the bookkeeping. Wu Shan said to Wu Tian, "Xiao Tian, go out and see where that axe flew. Don't hurt anyone. Oh, by the way, we don't have an axe anymore. You can also go find Tang Hao and ask him to make an axe." "Okay." Wu Tian said helplessly. Wu Tian walked reluctantly out of the door. As he stepped out of the door, the voice of a young male brother suddenly rang out in his mind. Why is it the voice of the little brother? Because this voice is particularly gentle and magnetic. The daily system is being bound, please wait a moment for the host. Binding progress of 25%. Binding progress is 38%. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully binding to the daily system. Wishing you a pleasant use. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining a daily system gift package. Ding. The first task of the daily system is to ask the host to go to the neighboring blacksmith's shop and find Tang Hao to make a refined iron axe. Task deadline: 5 hours, 59 minutes, and 56 seconds. Task reward: 1 axe type random martial soul. I finally succeeded in finding me with my golden finger. What a yellow sky that never disappoints people of color. Since this system is called the daily task system, it definitely means releasing a task every day. Isn't that a pleasure? But does this daily appointment have another layer of meaning? For example, a female friend every day. Then don't be too satisfied. This system also has a successful binding system gift package, which is much more impressive than any beginner gift package. The system is really heartwarming. He shouted in his heart, "Open the big gift package." Ding, congratulations to the host for opening the big gift package. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a bottle of self-cultivation small power pill. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a bottle of height rubbing pill. Congratulations to the host for getting a bag of beauty in water retaining facial mask. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a set of rabbit clothes. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a pack of 8-degree space. Beautiful or not? Wu Tian feels that this system is so similar to the one used by women. Otherwise, why are the things inside this big gift package so feminine? What kind of system is there? This is just a woman's little cotton jacket. Well, let it be, let it be. It's important to start with the task now because there is a time limit to the task. As for the information on these items, it's better to wait until the task is completed before reading. He didn't even bother to check where the axe was flying when Wu Jian instructed him. He rushed to the blacksmith's shop, racing against time. He didn't even have time to knock on the door, so he used his small body to crash into it. As soon as he came in, he shouted, "Uncle Tang Hao, I want to." "No, you don't want it. I want it." Tang Hao interrupted Wu Tian's words. Wu Tian blinked his confused eyes and asked, "Uncle Tang Hao, what do you want?" Tang Hao pointed solemnly at Wu Tiandao and said, "I want you to accompany me. Seeking collection, seeking recommended tickets." End of this chapter. Chapter 4. My dream is to be a registered carpenter. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. My dream is to be a registered carpenter. Tang Hao originally intended to say that I want you to accompany me with my eggs, which are of course eggs laid by ordinary chickens. Because the Wu Tianjia family took care of their business, it also made their family get rid of the poor life of eating porridge. Although it can't be said that they have meat all at once, it's almost enough, and Tang Hao, due to having some small money at home, eats lunch every day before work at noon. And just now I was making him a love lunch, and Tang San made it very simple, which was egg soup. But when he was about to go to the basket to get eggs when the water boiled, suddenly a sharp axe flew over with a bang. The axe happened to hit the egg basket, and Tang Hao also felt the danger and ran over quickly. Tang Hao witnessed with his own eyes that all his eggs were smashed. Click click click. The sound of eggs shattering was particularly piercing, and he stared straight at the axe flying into his furnace. "Dad, your eggs are all broken. We don't have anything to eat for lunch." Tang San said very wrongly. "My egg. It's broken." So he angrily swung the hammer and turned it into a pancake. He is certainly familiar with this axe, isn't it, forged by himself? No need to think, he also knew that it was flying from next door. After calming down, he decided to go to Wu Tian's house to ask what was going on. But as soon as he was about to open the door, Wu Tian burst in and said he wanted it. "I want a hammer, I also want my eggs." So he interrupted Wu Tian's words, ready to ask for an egg, but when he was speaking halfway, he realized that something was not quite right, so he stopped and didn't continue. However, he was really good at finding a place with this broken sentence. He took it this time, and it's not something that can be described as a misunderstanding. Wu Tian has already taken it seriously. Wu Tian quickly covered his chest with both hands and said with a look of horror, "Uncle Tang Hao, I can't agree to your request. Even the uncles, aunts, and little sisters in the village won't agree." Tang Hao awkwardly raised and lowered his hands, and he quickly explained, "Little Tian, I didn't mean anything." "What does that mean?" Wu Tian retreated to the corner and asked helplessly. Tang Hao patted his forehead and explained, "Your axe flew over and smashed my egg, so." Sigh. "Forget it." Wu Tian thought to himself. "Is the sleeping slot so explosive? I actually smashed Haotian Douluo's egg." Wu Tian curiously looked down at Tang Hao's lower body and realized that this bag was still quite big. Tang Hao noticed Wu Tian's gaze and immediately shouted at the broken eggs with his hand, "Stinky kid, where are you looking? It's not here, it's where? It's that basket of eggs." Wu Tian followed Tang Hao's fingers and looked towards the ground. Sure enough, he saw the sticky egg crumpled on the ground, emitting a chicken smell. Wu Tian scratched the back of his head and felt very embarrassed. He smiled mischievously and said, "Uncle Tang Hao, the total amount for this hammer handle is." Before Wu Tian could finish speaking, Tang Hao quickly interrupted with a smile that was even uglier than crying, "Oh my goodness, Uncle Tang Hao was just playing with you." "Ha ha ha," he smiled while patting Wu Tian's shoulder. Tang Hao's hand was an iron hand, and even though he didn't use much force, Wu Tian still cried out in pain, "Oh my! Uncle Tang Hao, you're patting me, and my shoulder has been shattered by you." "Ha ha ha." Of course Tang Hao did it intentionally. How could Tang Richen let this little kid take advantage of me? I'll take pictures, I'll take pictures, I'll take pictures again. Oh my goodness. I see your bones are amazing, but you're even more suitable for being a blacksmith than a mistress. Do you want to learn my hammer technique? Tang Hao asked. Wu Tian shook his head and said, No, I have decided to learn carpentry from my old man. My dream is to become a carpenter who is even more powerful than the old man. I want to be a licensed carpenter. Pushi ha ha ha. Xiao Tian, your dream is great and ambitious. Come on. Tang Hao has not laughed like he does today for many years. Wu Tian gives him the feeling that he is even closer than his son Tang San, which makes him feel a warmth of family. Although Tang San is very filial to him, he is too dull. Tang San gives him the feeling of being like his age peers, making him unable to feel the warmth of his family. So he just had the intention of teaching Wu Tian the hammer technique, but Wu Tian's reply made him feel very funny. This little brat actually wants to become a licensed carpenter. I've been working hard for so many years to become a licensed blacksmith, and it's not as easy as he imagined to become a licensed carpenter. However, Tang Hao did not mock him, but rather had a high opinion of him. Compared to Tang San's maturity, Tang Hao had a higher opinion of Wu Tian because Wu Tian gave people a more approachable feeling and made them feel particularly eager to get close. Even he had the feeling of treating Wu Tian as his own son, but of course Wu Tian didn't know his thoughts. If he knew, he would definitely be very disgusted. Tang San, who had been watching the lively scene for a long time, was shocked because he heard that his father was going to hand over the Wu Heavenly Hammer technique, but his father has not handed it over to him yet. Although he doesn't think his father's hammering technique is very strong, it's at least a craft. How could his father pass it on to outsiders instead of his son? Is this still my own father? Tang San shouted beside him, Dad. Xiao San, I'm hungry. You go out and buy a basket of eggs, come back and continue cooking. Tang Hao said seriously. I understand now. Tang San firmly concluded through these words that he was indeed not his own son. How could he treat his own son like this? What's wrong with standing there? Hurry up and go. Yes, Dad. Tang San obediently agreed and walked out of the room to buy eggs. Wu Tian feels particularly sad and heartbroken about this, it's his third brother. He hurriedly helped the junior to explain. Uncle Tang Hao, you are too strict with the junior brother. How nice he is. He also cooks for you and collects money for you. Like the last big order, the shovel and harrow struck by East Village, he gave you 10 silver coins in total. Tang Hao nodded in agreement and said, Indeed, I am too strict with him, but I am strict for his good. Just like the big order last time, he did 10 perfectly. At this point, Tang Hao blinked and pressed his face against Wu Tian in surprise, asking, Xiao Tian, how many silver soul coins did you just say? 8. Wu Tian's eyes were a bit flickering, and he said with uncertainty. Wu Tian frowned as he looked at Tang Hao. He cleverly confirmed, 7 of them, you must be right. Third, get out of here. Give me back my 5 silver soul coins. Tang Hao roared up to the sky. Seeking collection, checking in, commenting, and recommending tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Tang Hao crafts an axe. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Tang Hao crafts an axe. Wu Tian quickly advised on the side, Uncle Tang Hao, don't be angry with your third brother anymore. After all, he is secretly saving some private money for future marriage. Marry a wife. With his steel and straight appearance, can you still get a wife? Look at that little girl in the village who is willing to play with him. I'm so angry. Tang Hao shouted angrily. Wu Tian patted his small chest and said, Don't worry, Uncle Tang Hao. In the future, my third brother's marriage will be on my shoulders. I will definitely find a beautiful wife for him, who is as beautiful as flowers and has a lotus-like appearance. Tang Hao couldn't help but admire Wu Tian as he saw him, saying, "If only my mistress were half as sensible and clever as you. Xiao Tian, I'll entrust his marriage to you in the future." "Oh, by the way, Xiao Tian, what did you just say you wanted?" Wu Tian silently recorded the third party's marriage in his heart. After all, it was a very meaningful thing. After learning about it, the third party would definitely jump down from the back mountain happily. As soon as Wu Tian heard the news was coming, he quickly said, "Uncle Tang Hao, you also know that my family only has the axe for chopping wood, and it has now melted into molten iron. I want you to help me make another fine iron axe." Tang Hao said nonchalantly, "Hey, I don't think it's a big deal. Isn't it just a fine iron axe? Xiao Tian, wait for me here for a while, I'll be fine soon." As he spoke, he picked out a hot and red iron block from the furnace, and Tang Hao swung his hammer fiercely against it. Wu Tian watched Tang Hao's movements and found that Tang Hao's movements were similar to those of Wu Sheik. They all used their calves to exert force first, and then pass it to their waist. Their arms suddenly exert force and swing quickly. However, compared to Tang Hao's quick swing of the hammer, Wu Shan's swing of the axe is much worse. It's really not right. I really don't know the difference. Tang Hao also noticed Wu Tian's gaze and secretly praised him, saying, "Look at how hardworking and eager the children of the old Wu family are. He just saw me waving my hammer so seriously for the first time. If only the third person could be like him. The mistress is just a waste of time. I deliberately show him things every day. He doesn't even look at them, and he knows to work hard and cook. My heart is so cold." Tang Hao explained to Wu Tian so seriously, as the saying goes, carpenters and blacksmiths are not separated, so the principle of wielding an axe and a hammer is the same. However, in order to achieve full force and effortless impact with each hammer or axe, it is necessary to use 3 hearts to operate simultaneously. The human body has only one heart, but as technical workers, we have 2 other hearts, and that's it. Tang Hao pointed to his own calf and said. So when exerting force, it's not starting from the waist, the 3 hearts are the true starting points. When your chest's heart beats at lightning speed, start exerting force from your 2 calves, transmit it to your thighs, pass through your waist, back, and arms, and finally release it. This is the ultimate blow. The heart exerts force, the waist is the axis, and it's activated. Tang Hao let out a low shout and half turned his body, just to make Wu Tian see more clearly. I saw his feet tightly pressed against the ground, and his calves suddenly tightened. He was like a fierce tiger descending from the mountain, smashing at the bright red iron block with a domineering and decisive momentum. Clash. Under Tang Hao's hammer, the piece of iron quickly shrank. So next, the blacksmith shop emitted a sound of ding ding dang, dong dong dang. Wu Tian watched Tang Hao's movements very carefully, because he found that he had gained a lot from watching Tang Hao's movements. Although he would use an axe as a weapon in the future, as Tang Hao said, carpenters and blacksmiths are inseparable, and this principle is not much different. However, Tang Hao spoke much stronger than Wu Shugen, which allowed Wu Tian to have a clearer understanding of the details of the force exerted. Tang Hao's forging speed is very fast, after all, he is a title blacksmith. Before Tang San could buy the eggs back, Tang Hao forged an axe, which was slightly larger than before. In Tang Hao's words, it would be more stable for him to practice with this axe in the future. Wu Tian also naturally understood why, because it was as stable as old iron. There is nothing wrong with the old iron. Wu Tian was holding an axe with a slight warmth in his hand, feeling very uncomfortable because his task was not displayed as completed. He carefully reviewed the system tasks again and asked the host to go to the next blacksmith shop to find Tang Hao to make an axe. The axe is the key, it is to make him create an axe, not just an axe. This embarrassed Wu Tian, after all, his family can make this axe handle and hammer handle. He can't tell Tang Hao that my family doesn't have it. Can you also make an iron one for me? This is too abnormal. So Wu Tian had to lick his face and smile at Tang Hao, saying, Uncle Tang Hao, I feel like this is not stable enough. It's like the axe I used to throw at your house and chop your eggs in pieces. So you can make another iron handle. That way, I won't be afraid of chopping your eggs again. Tang Hao felt speechless as he listened to Wu Tian, this little brat, saying that if he didn't agree, he would chop his egg. He had to decide what he wanted to chop for himself, and when a little brat would decide. But Tang Hao dotes on Wu Tian too much. If someone had said that, he would have already made a firm decision. How could he even help make an axe handle? He had a strong liking for Wu Tian, and when Wu Tian asked for an axe handle, he immediately agreed. The children of another family are the children of another family. Look at your child and suggest using an iron axe handle to increase stability. This little Tian is not only clever, but also so hardworking. If he awakens a powerful martial soul, he will definitely have a place in the top position of the Douluo continent in the future. Tang Hao's skills are extremely advanced, especially the combination of the handle and axe, which is the most challenging skill for a blacksmith. As a blacksmith with titles, Tang Hao would certainly use the principle of thermal expansion and contraction. Wu Tian saw Tang Hao's movements with great care, and he knew that a new knowledge, posture, had been added to his mind. Wu Tian took the axe handed over by Tang Hao and smiled happily, Thank you, Uncle Tang Hao. Ha ha ha, Xiao Tian, you're still so polite to Uncle. I won't be polite to you. When Xiaosan comes back and finishes his meal, I'll let him go to your house to get a wooden stick. Tang Hao said. Wu Tian said, Okay, then Uncle Tang Hao, I'll leave first. The old man is still waiting for me at home. Please collect and recommend tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Harvest of Shaking Axe Soul and Big Gift Pack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Harvest of Shaking Axe Soul and Big Gift Pack. Wu Tian left the blacksmith's shop with a large axe. His walking posture is not very attractive now because the axe is still heavy for him, and he can only move by dragging it. Although his posture was unattractive, he didn't feel tired at all because his first task was completed. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the first task of the daily system. Go to the neighboring blacksmith's shop and find Tang Hao to craft a refined iron axe. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the task reward. Axe type random martial soul. Shaking sky axe. Ding! As this is the host's first time, the system hereby rewards the host with a box of blood supplement oral liquid. Wu Tian was indeed delighted to complete the task, but what does this blood tonifying oral liquid mean? First time. Are you really treating me like a girl? It's okay, it's okay. It's better to have than not. Don't waste it, whoever wants it for free doesn't want it. Is it just my sky-shaking axe martial soul? Did you lose it? At least give me an introduction. Wu Tian's communication system asked, Where is my shaking heavenly axe martial soul? Is this martial soul powerful? The mechanical magnetic male voice rang out. Ding! Your heavenly shaking axe martial soul has not yet awakened, and specific information cannot be viewed at the moment. Remind the host that the system produces high-quality products. What kind of exquisite martial soul still needs to be awakened? I have already obtained my martial soul, but the result still needs to be awakened. How can I awaken? After the initial awakening of the host, the martial soul of the sky-shaking axe will awaken. When Wu Tian heard these words, the corners of his mouth immediately rolled into his ears. The system meant that he had two martial souls. When will his initial martial soul awaken? I won't have to wait for Xiao Tao Tao to come, will I? And what is his initial martial soul? This makes him particularly excited. After learning that he was a twin martial soul, Wu Tian felt particularly strong, even dragging the big axe felt light and ethereal. Because it was only a road apart, Wu Tian only dragged a few times before returning home again. Dang clang, he threw the handle of the axe to the ground and shouted, "Stinky old man, I'll put this axe here. My third brother invited me to climb the mountain, I'll go first." Wu Shan looked at the back of Wu Tian as he left and shook his head, muttering to himself, "This little brat always says that the mistress invites him to climb the mountain, so we can't find any other excuse. Isn't going out just teasing the little girl?" Wu Tian walked out of his house and headed towards the back mountain of Xinghun village. He didn't invite the little girl to go to the back mountain this time, but there was something very serious going on. His small physique is still much worse than Tang San's. Tang San climbed this back mountain effortlessly, while Wu Tian couldn't climb halfway up the mountain. Wu Tianlan sat on the ground, looking at this position and thinking to himself that he was almost there. The reason why he came to the back mountain was to avoid the blacksmith Tang Hao, who was given the title. If he takes out a bunch of bottles and jars at home, he will definitely be discovered by Tang Hao. How will he explain then? So for safety reasons, he decided to come to the back mountain. And Tang San doesn't have time to come to the back mountain now, which is the most absolutely safe place for him. Wu Tian sat on the ground and took out all the things he got from the system space, including a bottle of Xiaoli pill for self-cultivation, a bottle of height scrambling pill, a bag of facial mask for beauty, skin care and moisturizing, a set of rabbit clothes, a bag of 8 degrees of space, and a box of blood tonic oral liquid. Wu Tian looked at the things placed in front of him and felt dizzy. Among all these dazzling things, the rabbit little clothes are the most eye-catching, because they are 2 pieces with pink lace edges, uneven patterns, and a special charm. These 2 pieces alone are enough to indicate that they are not something he can wear. No, these are not 2 pieces, because there is also a headdress. This headdress has long, big rabbit ears and looks indescribably cute and playful. Wu Tian feels speechless about this. Why reward me with this set? Can I wear it like this? Although Wu Tian said so, he looked around with a guilty heart, then curiously sniffed at the tip of his nose. Suddenly, a fragrance of roses seeped into his heart and spleen. He checked the information about this outfit. Rabbit little clothes, female. Hidden protective clothing that can withstand a full blow from the band Douluo. It can automatically change in size according to the host's body shape and has the scent of roses. Long-term wearing can make the host's body carry its own fragrance. After Wu Tian saw this information, his heart couldn't calm down for a long time. His heart was making a decision. What should I wear? Or not wearing it? What's so special to consider? Of course I won't wear it anymore. I don't want to be a big shot in women's clothing. Isn't it a pleasure to throw away his system space and give it to Xiaowu's wife in the future? If Xiaowu wears this headdress, if her figure wears this little rabbit clothes again, she will be lying in bed just thinking about it made my heart surge. Wu Tian felt his nose was a bit moist, and he reached out to touch it. Why did my nose bleed? How about trying a bottle of blood tonic oral liquid? Blood tonifying oral liquid. A box of 5 pieces, nourishing blood and qi. With just 1 piece, you can recover from injuries and bleeding. Isn't this introduction the legendary blood medicine? Having such a good effect, of course we can't just drink it now. Isn't drinking it now a waste? This oral liquid has such a strong effect, so naturally other things will not be much worse. Wu Tian quickly checked the information of other things again. Self-cultivation Xiaoli pill. 1 bottle, 1 pill can make your body a perfect golden ratio within 3 months, without any rebound, and your strength will also increase accordingly. Height rubbing pill. 1 bottle, 1 pill can make your height far exceed your peers within 3 months, without rebounding, and the speed will also increase accordingly. Facial mask. A package of permanent money, long-term application, can make your appearance beautiful and moving. 8-degree space. comfortable day and night permanent style. Use it casually, it will never be used up. Wu Tian couldn't help but shout out, beautiful. Is it really beautiful? This is a big gift package tailored for girls, right? If he were a girl, he would definitely fly up in excitement, but he's not. But that's all, he's also very happy, after all, a man also seems to be handsome. Without hesitation, he took the self-cultivation small power pill, and the obvious reaction after taking it was that his strength increased a bit and his whole body was full of energy. My waist is no longer sore, my legs are no longer painful, and I can still climb mountains with energy. And then he rubbed his height against Dan and ate it. This time, he didn't have any obvious reaction. If we had to describe it, it was that his hand and foot speed were faster. After finishing these 2 dishes, Wu Tian felt a bit unsatisfied, but he couldn't eat the remaining 2. One is a facial mask, while the other can only be used to wipe the mouth. Seeking collection, seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Stable, accurate, and fierce. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Stable, accurate, and fierce. Wu Tian saw that it was still early, so he made a facial mask and applied it to his face. This facial mask was not much different from the ordinary facial mask. It was just a cold feeling, and of course, it also contained a special essence fragrance. Wu Tian lay on top of a large stone, looking up at the sky. My golden fingers finally came, and Douluo continent trembled for me. Long, Wu Tian felt the ground tremble a bit. Why did it really tremble? Is it an earthquake? Wu Tian flipped over from the stone he was lying on and stared at the big stone. What's so funny? No wonder Wu Tian felt trembling. It turned out that the stone he was lying on was a soul beast, and this soul beast was not very strong. It had a layer of armor like a rock, but its exposed head was particularly cute, like a little hedgehog. When it saw Wu Tian Ho, it quickly withdrew its head, afraid that Wu Tian would harm it. Of course, Wu Tian won't harm it anymore. The soul beasts that can still be alive in the back mountain are absolutely safe, because this is where Tang San runs over whenever he has nothing to do. For Tang San's safety, Tang Hao naturally drove away or killed all the soul beasts in the back mountain long ago. So this back mountain is an absolute safety zone, and Wu Tian didn't care about this soul beast that doesn't know its name anymore. Instead, he ran down the mountain. It was not until later that Wu Tian learned about the information of the soul beast that he knew this soul beast, which could not attack humans, was called a rock mouse. Compared to Wu Tian's embarrassment when he went up the mountain, he can be said to be walking briskly and jumping up and down the mountain now. If Tang San saw this, he would definitely be surprised and said, "Brother Wu Tian also knows lightness skills." Of course, Wu Tian doesn't have any lightness skills. He just feels that his body is very light, thanks to the cultivation of small strength pills and height rubbing pills. After consuming these 2 pills, Wu Tian's physical attributes have experienced a qualitative increase and leap. Of course, this is also related to his previous physical fitness. Compared to Tang San, his previous physical fitness was really poor, but now his physical fitness is almost the same as Tang San, and the gap between them is significant. Wu Tian happily returned home, feeling very happy. When he got home, he said directly to Wu Shan, "Stinky old man, I'm back. Let me help you with your work." Wu Jian hurriedly ran out of the door and looked up at the sky in surprise, saying, "Sleeping trough, the sun has really risen from the west today. Are you stupid, stinky old man? It's afternoon now. Can the sun still be in the east if it's not in the west?" Wu Tian said disdainfully. Wu Sheik quickly ran in again and came to Wu Tian's face. He reached out and touched Wu Tian's forehead, saying strangely, "Huh. You don't have a fever either." Wu Tian. Wu Shan said anxiously, "Xiao Tian, what's wrong with you? Tell me so I can find a way for you." Wu Tian felt speechless. This stinky old man's behavior is too much. It makes me feel like I don't work normally. Wu Tian didn't pay attention to Wu Shan, but picked up the axe he had used to strike Tang Hao and started chopping wood. Wu Tian let out a loud shout, and his calves began to exert force. An unprecedented force suddenly erupted, and this force began to spread in an instant. The waist drove the back and then spread to the arms, and the axe swung towards the piece of wood with a groundbreaking force. Wu Shan's eyes lit up as he stared at Wu Tian's movements. He was surprised and said, "Xiao Tian not only has his strength increased, but he has also learned his skillful skills. Sleeping slot, it's not taught by the old Tang next door, is it? Isn't that a deviation from teaching?" Wu Tian's axe was imposing, as the weight of the axe made his body, which was not too heavy, leave his feet off the ground. The piece of wood that Wu Tian aimed at naturally split into two halves. Wu shook his hands and exclaimed, "Xiao Tian, you did a good job, but your posture looks like a blacksmith. Did the old Tang next door teach you?" Wu Tian looked at Wu Shan in surprise. Wu Jian said seriously, "Don't look at me like that. I naturally know his techniques, and he also knows my techniques. Technical workers understand each other's principles." Wu Tian nodded. The methods used in his work were all interchangeable, but he just wanted to use them flexibly. Wu Shan looked at Wu Tian with admiration. This kid is very clever and can say whatever he wants. Wu Jian continued, "Xiao Tian, you need to know that you are not holding a hammer, but an axe. Although both axes require strength to control, the control of the axe is even more difficult. The control of the hammer only requires stability and toughness, while the control of the axe requires 3 points. Xiao Tian, do you know which 3 points are needed?" 3 points. Stable, accurate, and ruthless. Wu Tian questioned. Wu Shuk nodded and praised, "Xiao Tian, you're really smart. You're right, the 3 points required for controlling an axe are precisely stability, accuracy, and ruthlessness. You only used ruthlessness just now, like hitting with a hammer." Wu Shuk pointed at the wood that Wu Tian had just split and said, "Xiao Tian, look here. Although the wood you split is in half, it is uneven in size." Wu Shan squatted down again and used his hands to split Wu Tian into 2 pieces of wood and reassemble them together, saying, "Xiao Tian, do you understand?" Wu Tian looked at the wood that was pieced together by Wu Shake and immediately understood, because he could clearly see that the cut of the wood was slanted. This precisely proves that his axe only has a fierce force, with no precise or steady force at all. This is far from what Wu Shan said about stability, accuracy, and ruthlessness. "I understand." Wu Tian nodded and said. Wu Shan took the axe and held it tightly in his hands. He wanted to demonstrate it to Wu Tian, so that he could better understand and master the principles behind it. Wu shook, his movements were no different from what he had said. His strength extended from his legs to his waist, from his waist to his arms. His gaze was incredibly firm and confident, and he split the new wood in half with just one axe. When Wu Tian thought that Wu Shake's demonstration was over, Wu Shake moved again, and the axe in his hand quickly transformed into a horizontal slash. The wood, which had originally turned into 2 halves, instantly turned into 4 halves again, and not only that, but also because the axe in Wu Shake's hand was once again moved. This time, he quickly flipped the axe in his hand and smashed it vertically with the tip of the axe. 4 pieces of wood fell under his hammer, all of which fell into the ground. The direction of the axe is ever-changing and versatile, just like how our carpenters would use an axe when smashing a pier, not a hammer. Wu Shuk put down the axe in his hand. Wu Tian couldn't help but exclaim in his heart as he gazed at Wu Shan's seamless action. If the stinky old man had an axe martial soul, his strength would definitely not be inferior to the blacksmith next door. Of course, Wu Tian also gained a lot from watching Wu Shake's movements. Even though he was separated by mountains, his learning with an axe and a hammer was still a bit lacking. Don't be fooled by that. If he were to engage in a life or death battle with someone, he would be in dire straits. Please collect and recommend tickets. Can you give me the tickets? Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Awakening Martial Souls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Awakening Martial Souls. Xiao Tian, do you understand? Wu Shuk handed the axe back to Wu Tiandao. Wu Tianjie nodded and said, I understand. Waving an axe is like that, it's constantly changing, constantly changing. Wu Shan really didn't understand what Wu Tian was saying. Wu Tian started waving his axe again, because he had taken the cultivation small power pill, and his strength increased significantly. Even waving the axe a few times was not a big deal. Wu Tian clearly understood the mystery that Wu Shan was talking about, and the next step was to rely on his practice to make perfect. This is an old voice coming over. Oh my, Xiao Tian has started working. I'll go. The sun is really in the west. Wu Tian looked towards the door and saw an old man with a white beard bowing his body, holding hands behind his back, smiling at him. This old man may look over 60 years old, but don't look at him hunched over, but he is very energetic. His clothes are clean and tidy, and his hair is meticulously groomed, with a small braid. Of course Wu Tian knows this person, because he is the village chief of Holy Soul Village, Old Jack. Of course, he can also be described as the old village chief, Jack. Because Old Jack has already sold his name, he has been selling wine since last year. The name of this wine is Old Village Chief, and of course, this idea was also proposed by Wu Tian on his behalf. However, Wu Tian has also invested in the idea stock. Because of this, Old Jack's business is thriving and he has gained a lot. Otherwise, how could Old Jack smile at him every time? Old Jack, what are you doing here? Are you here to send me money? Wu Tian said happily. Wu shook Wu Tian's head and said, it's Grandpa Jack. Did you call Old Jack? Old Jack quickly waved his hand and said, it's okay, it's okay. Xiao Tian can call him whatever he wants. Wu Shan asked Old Jack to sit down and asked, Village Chief, are you here for anything? Old Jack smiled and said, isn't Xiao Tian 6 years old? This year's Awakening Martial Soul ceremony is coming soon. I'll let you know. Wu Zhen asked in detail, oh. Is it so fast? What specific day is it? 1 day later, I'll come pick up Xiao Tian myself. Old Jack extended a finger and said. Wu Tiandao said, Old Jack, I don't need you to pick me up. I'll go by myself then. Old Jack nodded with a look of admiration in his eyes. Look at him, Xiao Tian. Although he's a bit mischievous, he can completely rely on himself. He's not like my grandson, he's really a grandson. Old Jack said, well, I don't know the exact time of the ceremony either. Let me pick you up. Wu Tian nodded helplessly and asked curiously, Old Jack, were you the first to come to my house to notify me? That's right. Old Jack said in confusion. Wu Tian was overjoyed and said, I happen to have nothing to do either. Let me accompany you to someone else's house to notify you. Although Old Jack didn't understand what Wu Tian meant, he still allowed it. Who made him Wu Tian? Wu Tian, like a thatched cottage, came to Tang San's house again. As they were neighbors, Old Jack notified Tang San the second time. Due to the presence of Wu Tian, Tang Hao did not appear very indifferent. When Old Jack said he would take Tang San to awaken his martial soul, he agreed directly and even said that Wu Tian should take care of Tang San. Next, Wu Tian followed Old Jack around to other homes, but the other parents were much more enthusiastic than Tang Hao. They directly presented generous gifts, of course, in double, with Old Jack giving one and Wu Tian giving one. Wu Tian gained a lot from circling around, but he didn't hold anything in his hand because his movements were actively carried on his shoulders by Old Jack. Although Old Jack's waist is usually arched, it straightens twice at this moment because he also wants to give gifts, and what others give him happens to be given to Wu Tian. It really saves Old Jack money. Isn't it just a bit tired? I'm not without hard work. I used to build all those acres of land in my house. When Wu Tian and Old Jack returned home, it was already evening. Old Jack put down his things and left. He didn't want to eat at Wu Tian's house. Because as long as he hesitates, he will have to prepare 10 times the price to repay, and Wu Tian will not be at a loss. The next day, Wu Tian was still asleep when he heard someone calling him. "Xiao Tian, wake up, the sun is shining on your buttocks. I'm here to pick you up." Old Jack's voice echoed in Wu Tian's ear. Wu Tian opened his blurry eyes and lazily said, "Old Jack, why are you coming to my house so early? Isn't tomorrow the time for the awakening ceremony?" "Well, I said I remember wrong." "Did you believe I said wrong yesterday?" Old Jack said awkwardly. Wu Tian blinked his eyes and suddenly became energetic. This Old Jack is so confused, isn't he? Can you still remember the date of awakening incorrectly? Wu Tian quickly lifted the bedding and said, "What are you waiting for? Let's go." Wu Tian quickly put on his clothes and didn't even wash his face, so he rushed out of the house with Old Jack. As for the children from other families, Old Jack had already sent someone to report, but Tang San did not report because Tang San's family was very close. "Third brother, come out quickly. Today is the day of awakening." Old Jack is confused. He remembered the wrong day yesterday. Wu Tian shouted loudly at the door of the blacksmith shop. "This is Wu Tian." If someone else dared to say that to Old Jack, he would have been angry long ago, but this person is Wu Tian, and he didn't even get angry. "Xiao San, your little brother Tian has come to pick you up," Tang Hao said to Tang San, who was cooking. "But Dad hasn't cooked breakfast for you yet." Tang San pointed to the century egg cooked meat congee being cooked in the pot. Tang Hao impatiently said, "Are you still doing a fart? I'll do it myself. You go quickly." Tang San agreed and rushed out of the blacksmith's shop to come to Wu Tian's side. "Xiao Tian, Grandpa Jack has kept you waiting for a long time." Tang San said obediently. Old Jack hurriedly said, "Let's go quickly. We won't be able to catch up in a while." Under the leadership of Old Jack, they arrived at the Martial Soul Hall in the village, which was renovated by Wu Tian. After all, he wanted to provide Xiao Tao Tao with a good and comfortable environment, only in this way can his arrogant personality be alleviated. There are a total of 8 children coming to the Martial Soul Hall this year, and Wu Tian and Tang San came the latest. Tang San also knew that it was all because of him. Fortunately, they caught up. If they didn't catch up, he would definitely drag Wu Tian down. He thought of this and showed a grateful look at Wu Tian. Wu Tian's family was really kind to them. He decided that he would become a strong person in the future and would definitely repay Wu Tian and his family well. When these 6 children saw Wu Tian, they all ran over excitedly and obediently called out, "Boss!" Seeking collection, seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Iron-clad little waves. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Iron-clad little waves, Wu Tian nodded and said. Old Jack quickly asked the children, "Has the deacon of the Martial Soul Hall come yet?" Here. He just entered and told us to wait for everyone to come in together," said a slightly taller child. "Well, let's go in together," Old Jack said. Ding. Post a daily system task. Please awaken the martial soul of the host behind Tang San. Task reward. Innate full soul power. Ouch, not bad. When Wu Tian walked into the village-level martial soul hall, he saw a young man sitting on a chair. This young man looked like he was in his 20s, with sword eyebrows and a very handsome appearance. He was wearing a white strong suit, with a black cloak behind him, and a fist-sized soul character on his chest. Next to this soul character, there is also a badge with 3 swords intertwined on it. This person is none other than Su Yuntao, who is known for his iron fist. Old Jack bowed slightly and said, "Respected War Soul Master, the children have all arrived. I'll trouble you next." Xiao Taotao was very proud. He stood up from his chair and bowed slightly in return. "I don't have much time, let's start now. I have to go to another village later." Old Jack also knew Xiao Taotao's pride. He did indeed have proud strength. He turned his head to Wu Tian and said, "Xiao Tian, you must work hard. I am looking forward to you becoming an excellent soul master, leading our holy soul village to become the title Douluo village." After finishing speaking, he said to the other children, "Well, you also need to work hard and cooperate well with the soul master to awaken your martial soul. Grandpa looks forward to someone among you becoming a soul master." Xiao Taotao was very curious. Every year, old Jack would say the last sentence, but this time he actually said to the child next to him alone, "Is this child special? It shouldn't be, after all, he has already walked 6 villages and doesn't even have a martial soul with soul power and suitable for being a soul master. How could this village have it?" There is also the title Douluo village mentioned by old Jack. It's really fantastic. Ignorant people are fearless. After old Jack finished speaking, he voluntarily withdrew from the martial soul hall. Xiao Taotao was curious as he looked at the 8 children who were consciously standing in a row. These children were surprisingly well behaved, and other villages required him to give orders or release their martial souls in order for those children to obediently obey. However, he actually consciously stood in a row. Xiao Taotao asked gently and curiously, "Children, why are you so well behaved and consciously standing in a row?" Wu Tian looked at this little Taotao, who looked like a preschool teacher, and thought to himself, "This little Taotao is also suitable for this job." As the child king, Wu Tian naturally came to answer Xiao Taotao's words. "Master Soul, we are usually so disciplined. Every time we play together, as long as we gather together, we will first stand in a row and then count." Xiao Taotao really likes a few children. These children are also so cute that they can even count. He wants to see and see. Xiao Taotao squinted his eyes and smiled gently. He then show me the drill again." Wu Tian felt a wave of disdain towards Xiao Taotao, who didn't do anything serious. He didn't feel a bit pressured to come here for anything. We still need to report the numbers. 1, 2, 3. 8. 9. This 9 was naturally shouted out by Xiao Taotao. His shout immediately made these children have a much more harmonious relationship with him. A row of little minds looked at each other, which made Xiao Taotao feel very amused. These children are so cute. If it weren't for his business, he would definitely play with these children again. Xiao Taotao opened his package and took out 2 things from it. One was 6 black stones, while the other was a crystal ball shining blue. He used 6 stones to create a hexagonal shape on the ground, and then pointed his finger at Wu Tiandao, saying, "Come on, don't be afraid, it won't hurt. Close your eyes and feel it carefully." Wu Tian certainly wouldn't agree. He twisted his little brain and said, "Master Soul, I am their leader. I should let them wake up first." You really look like a boss, you're great." Xiao Taotao nodded in appreciation, gesturing for the child on the other side to come in. Lone Wolf, possessed. Xiao Taotao released his martial soul, and a surge of soul power emanated, and he also began to transform. He looked like he was going to become a Super Saiyan, with a very fierce expression. His short hair turned long, his black hair turned gray, and at the same time, gray hair began to grow on his hands. His 10 sharp claws also emitted a chill, and his body expanded much compared to before. And there was a white soul ring and a yellow soul ring flickering under his feet. Seeing this posture from the little boy among the hexagonal stones, he was so scared that he shouted, "Boss, help! Grey Wolf is going to eat people." Wu Tian was speechless. The green light in Xiao Taotao's eyes is indeed frightening, and the name Grey Wolf really suits him because his hair is grey. Xiao Taotao quickly grabbed the child who said he was Grey Wolf and said, "Don't be afraid, child. This is my martial soul Grey Wolf. If you could become a soul master, you would also have the ability of me." "Really? Then I want to awaken the martial soul of the sheep, and then I can intelligently fight against the Grey Wolf," the child said naively. Xiao Taotao certainly didn't know what he was saying, nor did he care about what he was saying, because he had met so many bear kids. Wu Tian also noticed Tang San's gaze. He looked at the hopeful expression in Tang San's eyes, and compared to Tang San, he was more looking forward to his awakened martial soul. He silently prayed in his heart, but never awaken a farming tool martial soul. A golden light shield enveloped the child's body, and the child who wanted to awaken the Ba sheep martial soul became very quiet. He extended his right hand at the signal of Xiao Taotao. In his right hand, a sickle appeared, and Xiao Taotao nodded slightly. He then held the crystal ball in his hand, gesturing for the child to reach out. Xiao Taotao sighed and said, "Alas, without soul power, you cannot become a soul master. And the next 5 children are all agricultural tools and martial souls, with no soul power." It was Tang San's turn this time, but he shook his head. "Xiao Tian, I'm not ready yet. Why don't you come first?" "Wu Tian. You really increased the difficulty of the task for me, right?" Wu Tian urged, "Third brother, it's because you're not ready that you need to wake up first. Keep moving forward with courage, third brother Ali." Tang San was fooled into the circle by Wu Tian in a daze. His martial soul was unexpectedly blue-silver grass, and with his persistence, he had Xiao Taotao test his soul power. Innate soul power. Xiao Taotao exclaimed in surprise. His eyes looked at Tang San as if he were looking at a monster. Tang San asked in confusion, "Uncle, what is innate soul power?" "What's your name, uncle? Am I that old? Call me brother." Xiao Taotao frowned and said reluctantly. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Acacia, Heartbreaking, Red Martial Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Acacia, Heartbreaking, Red Martial Soul, Brother Grey Wolf, what is innate full soul power? Tang San tilted his head and asked. Little Taotao was speechless. Why add a Grey Wolf? What kind of thing is Grey Wolf? Xiao Taotao explained, the called innate full soul power is the highest soul power that can be achieved by the innate when awakening the martial soul. Unfortunately, it's really a pity. Your martial soul is the abandoned martial soul of blue-silver grass, which... Xiao Taotao didn't continue, but Tang San naturally understood what he was going to say next, which was nothing more than that he couldn't become a soul master. Third brother, don't you just have a useless martial soul blue-silver grass? You can't become an excellent soul master. It's okay, don't worry, Tian Go will take care of you in the future. Wu Tian patted Tang San's shoulder and comforted him. Tang San looked at Wu Tian next to him, who couldn't comfort anyone but also comfort him, and nodded. Tang San certainly wouldn't be discouraged, because he also felt that there was a martial soul in him, and that martial soul was very powerful. He was very intelligent and didn't expose it. He wanted to continue asking Xiao Taotao some questions, but Xiao Taotao ignored him and pointed to Wu Tian beside him, saying, "Don't comfort others. It's your turn this time. Are you ready to comfort yourself with words?" "Comfort myself? How could it be?" Wu Tian stood in the middle of 6 black stones, enveloped by a golden light shield. Wu Tian extended his right hand and felt a scorching warmth emerging from it. The golden light slowly converged, revealing the martial soul in his hand. Wu Tian was surprised because the martial soul in his hand was also a grass, but this grass looked much more advanced than the blue-silver grass. This grass is a very ordinary-looking white flower, the size of a palm, with a shape similar to a peony, but it does not have leaves. And above this white flower, there are several astonishing reds, which give people a thrilling feeling. Rather than being red, it is more appropriate to say that blood is more appropriate. Xiao Tao stared at this flower, blinking his eyes. He was confused because he had never seen this thing before. Peony flower martial soul. I haven't heard of it before. Are you also a useless martial soul? Xiao Tao said in confusion. Compared to Xiao Tao's bewilderment, Tang San, who was on the side, was surprised and instinctively said, Acacia is heartbroken. Wu Tian didn't originally know his martial soul, but when he heard that it was lovesickness and heartbreak, he smiled. This acacia heartbreaking red is a fairy grass, and this martial soul is very powerful, because there is Ju Douluo from the martial soul hall as a reference. Ju Douluo's martial soul is the Qi Rong Tong Tian Ju martial soul, which is also a fairy grass. He is also titled Douluo. Ding! Congratulations to the host for awakening the lovesick and heartbroken red martial soul. Ding! Congratulations to the host for awakening the heavenly axe martial soul. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the daily task of awakening the martial soul behind Tang San. Reward. Innate soul power. Acacia heartbroken red martial soul. Extremely strong attack ability. Extremely strong auxiliary ability. Hidden function. It has the function of covering up soul power and soul beast breath. Shaking heavenly axe martial soul. With immense power and explosive power. Extremely destructive. Hidden function. You can freely control the size without requiring soul power. Xiao Tao is very embarrassed now because he heard Tang San call out this name that is not a flower or a grass, but he doesn't know. Isn't this hitting the face of the deacon of his martial soul hall? After Tang San subconsciously uttered the name, heartbreaking red, he also secretly regretted it. How could this mouth be so fast? Xiao Tao pointed at the heartbroken lovesickness in Wu Tian's hand and said, Your name is Tang San, right? Do you know this grass? Can you introduce it to me? Remember, don't play tricks. Tang San obediently said, When I was a child, I saw an introduction to this grass in a book. I only remember what it looks like and what its name is, but I don't remember anything else. Child, please make a draft. Xiao Tao smiled at Tang San. Tang San suddenly remembered his inappropriate choice of words. He even said that when he was a child, he was only 6 years old now. How could he be so young? Can 1 year be considered as childhood? Tang San obediently said again, I remember. It was a book I recently read that recorded the information about this lovesick heartbreak red. It had a very sad story written on it that still lingered in my memory. A long time ago, there was a handsome and beautiful young man. And in the end, he sprayed a mouthful of old blood on this flower, so it was called lovesick heartbreak red. It's called lovesick heartbreak red. Bao Yen was bewildered, and even Wu Tian did not realize that Tang San had such a talent for storytelling. Tang San's story was so exciting that Xiao Tao had to believe him because he felt that a 6-year-old child could not fabricate such a desolate story. Well, Tang San, take me to find that book later and read it carefully when I return to the martial soul hall. Xiao Tao patted Tang San's shoulder and said. Tang San. This is not true, is it? Xiao Tian, let's test your soul power. Xiao Tao eagerly said, holding the crystal ball. Okay, Brother Tao. Wu Tian shouted in response. After all, they all flatter and call him Xiao Tian, so of course he wants to please and call him obeison. Wu Tian's hand pressed against the crystal ball, and suddenly the crystal ball in Xiao Taotao's hand lit up. The dazzling blue light began to spread, but in the blink of an eye, the crystal ball was like a huge sapphire, emitting a dazzling and compelling light. Innate full soul power. It's innate full soul power again. Oh my goodness! Xiao Taotao exclaimed incredulously. His eyes looked at Wu Tian as if he were looking at a monster. Compared to Tang San's innate full soul power, he was even more surprised by Wu Tian. Because Tang San's martial soul is the abandoned martial soul of blue silver grass, while Wu Tian's martial soul is the lovesick heartbroken red that he has never heard of. Listening to this name of lovesick heartbroken red, is it definitely not an ordinary martial soul? Of course, he won't really listen to a 6-year-old child, he needs to go back and report it. If this lovesick heartbroken red is a super powerful martial soul, wouldn't he have discovered the future leader? Isn't a promotion and salary increase a piece of cake, just upgrading to become a branch hall master? It's so delicious. But before that, he had to stabilize Wu Tian. Xiao Taotao said seriously, Wu Tian, to be honest, I haven't seen your martial soul before. I can't judge its specific development potential, but I will inquire with the main hall when I go back, and I will personally come and give you an answer. Thank you, Brother Tao. Wu Tian gratefully said. The submission of his martial soul to the martial soul hall has no harm but benefits, because the name, Acacia Heartbreaking Red, has reached the ears of Ju Douluo Yuguan. Yuguan will definitely come to find him and accept him as his disciple. At that time, he can join the martial soul hall and stay with the goddesses Bibidong and Helena. Xiao Taotao quickly packed his package and walked out. Old Jack, I'm leaving. Something's up, I'm in a hurry. I'm in a hurry. If you have any questions, ask little brother Tian. After that, Xiao Taotao quickly left Holy Soul Village. Tang San. Fortunately, he forgot to look for a book. Seeking collection. Requesting recommended tickets. End of this chapter.